Hello all and welcome back to another Hyper Blue Reviews. Today's game is a quirky little platformer called New Super Lucky's Tale. Was I lucky enough to find an amazing game? Or was I super bummed out by the experience? Let's take a look. Have you been looking for a 3D platforming game experience for modern consoles? You know, one in the same vein as old 3D platformers from the Nintendo 64 era? Well, you're in luck because here comes New Super Lucky's Tale to fill that void. There are a lot of comparisons that can be made between this game and retro games like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64. There are even comparisons that can be made between this game and modern platformers, but there are enough differences to set New Super Lucky's Tale apart from the rest. New Super Lucky's Tale was developed and published by Playful Corp for the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4. Microsoft was the publisher for the Xbox One version and Windows version, however. In fact, the version for the Xbox One and Windows was actually just called Super Lucky's Tale. New Super Lucky's Tale is actually an expanded version of Super Lucky's Tale. It contains the DLC that was released for the Xbox and Windows version. While I haven't tried either the Xbox or Windows version, the PlayStation 4 and Switch versions are identical in terms of story, levels, and gameplay. Speaking of the story, Lucky is a young fox that really wants to join the Guardians with his sister Lyra. He's still young, but he has a lot of heart. The Guardians protect the Book of Ages, a magical book that contains entire worlds. One day, an evil cat sorcerer named Jinx shows up to find the Book of Ages. He, along with his mischievous family, the dreaded kitty litter, attempts to steal the Book of Ages. Jinx actually used to be a guardian, but betrayed everyone in an attempt to steal the Book of Ages. He banished most of the guardians to unknown worlds and locked up everyone that got in his way. The few remaining guardians went into hiding with the Book of Ages. Jinx and the kitty litter catch up to Lyra, Lucky, and the remaining guardians, but something strange happens to the Book of Ages when Jinx uses his magic. A portal is opened. Jinx, the kitty litter, and the book's pages are sucked in. The portal also takes Lucky as well as Lyra's Guardian Sigil. The Guardian Sigil allows Guardians to travel freely between the different worlds. This allows Lucky to travel, but strands Lyra in her hometown of Foxington. And as such, Lucky's quest begins. He must retrieve all the pages and restore the Book of Ages. New Super Lucky's Tale has you collecting all the pages from the Book of Ages. There are multiple hub worlds that have several levels as well as bonus puzzle stages. 4 pages can be obtained per level and 1 page per bonus stage. There are a certain number of pages to collect per world, and collecting them all unlocks costumes to purchase in the costume shop. I'm honestly not sure if collecting the pages affects anything in the later part of the game though, since I collected everything before completing the world. The player also has to collect a certain amount of pages in order to fight the boss of each world. Each boss is a member of the kitty litter. Once you defeat the boss, you can move on to the next world. The game predominantly features 3D platforming gaming, but there are some 2D side-scrolling sections as well. The 2D sections are further broken up into ones where you can freely move around as Lucky, and ones that auto-scroll. Now, when I say auto-scroll, I mean Lucky runs non-stop until he reaches the end of the stage. You just have to jump over enemies and collect things as you go. There are 4 different ways of obtaining pages in every stage. You get a page just for completing the level, collecting the letters L, U, C, K, and Y, collecting 300 coins, and finding a hidden page based on either completing a minigame, a timed event, or just finding it hidden in the level. None of these are very hard to accomplish per level. although there were a few levels where I had trouble finding all the letters on my first attempt, especially on the 2D side-scrolling stages that feature auto-scroll. There is a slight learning curve for the game, but it isn't a hard one to overcome. Lucky has the ability to double jump, swing his tail to attack enemies, and burrow underground. The double jump comes in handy for sure, but it's best to be careful and take your time when playing. It is possible to overshoot your jumps, especially in later levels. Players can also combine all three actions, that is double jump, tail swipe, and burrow, to extend jumps and reach faraway platforms. The tail swipe doesn't help Lucky stay in the air for long though, so players will have to be careful. The burrowing skill though is useful for avoiding enemies, attacking enemies, and accessing areas inaccessible while above ground. The difficulty steadily increases as the player progresses, but never seems impossible. The game really does ramp up the difficulty when the player reaches Foxington though. I mean, at that point, it's Lucky's time to prove that he's Guardian material by completing 16 very difficult challenge stages. Throughout the game, the player can collect coins. The player can spend those coins on different costumes in the costume shop. You unlock costumes by beating bosses, collecting pages, and collecting items, for example, hot dogs. The costumes are for aesthetic purposes only, and don't really affect the gameplay at all. But they are cool, and they do make Lucky look very stylish. It's kind of like the same concept from Super Mario Odyssey. You can change Mario's looks, but it doesn't really affect the gameplay much. So when I originally wrote this review in 2020, I loved the 3D levels, but thought that the 2D stages left a lot to be desired. Having replayed the game recently on the PlayStation 4, I want to take that stance back. I think that the 3D stages and the 2D stages are equally amazing. They're equally fun to play, and neither takes away from the experience. It's honestly nice to have the variety. The only exception to this statement, as far as I'm concerned, are the 2D levels where Lucky runs to the end non-stop. It's very easy to mistime a jump and miss a letter, page, or even a coin or diamond. Again, nothing serious because you can always replay the level, but it gets a little irritating when you can't go back to get the thing you missed. New Super Lucky's Tale is also very bright and colorful, and the characters are amazing. Everyone just looks so happy to be there. Each character, including NPCs, has a unique personality. I always went out of my way to see what each character had to say. Each world has a different cast of characters, including golems, worm people, peaceful wrestling yetis, ghosts, and fish people, each with their own personalities. The developers went out of the way to add puns and references to the characters as well, whether it's the characters' dialogue or their names. The puns and references that the characters make is top-notch. For example, I'm a big wrestling fan, and the Yeti Village is filled with so many funny lines and characters that wrestling fans will recognize and enjoy. I think my favorite Yeti has to be the Penultimate Warrior. Granted, I know he's not in the Yeti Village, but he is still one of the wrestlers. Not only am I a wrestling fan, but many of my subscribers know that I'm a fan of horror movies as well. There's a character named after Clive Barker, and I will say that the pun was not lost on me. That's not where the puns stop though. The stage names in Foxington feature a lot of puns and references to 80s music and movies as well. These dialogue and name puns aren't the only example of punny humor. Some of the loading screens have jokes from our favorite male golem. The developers put some serious effort into these puns and references, and I really appreciate it. The characters speak a pseudo-language when dialogue pops up on the screen. This fits the game very well, and it's fun to listen to them talk. It's reminiscent of Banjo-Kazooie, driving home that Nintendo 64 era feel. New Super Lucky's Tale also has very enjoyable music. Every world has its own memorable theme, and they're all lively enough that it adds to the overall feel of the game. New Super Lucky's Tale features a 3-heart health system. If you lose all 3 hearts, you lose a life. If you lose a life, you start back up from the last checkpoint. Although, to be fair, the same thing happens if you have more than 1 heart and fall into water or a pit. The life system is very dated and unnecessary given that you start back from the checkpoint anyway. I'm guessing if the player loses all their lives that they'll need to start the entire level over. But I never lost all my lives playing through this game, so I'm not entirely sure. Again, it seems pretty dated, so why not just remove the life system and have the player start at a checkpoint? One issue that I experienced with New Super Lucky's Tale is that it seems like Lucky has trouble picking up speed sometimes. I often found myself primarily burrowing underground because it felt like it moved Lucky faster than walking normally. It's like making Link roll around in Ocarina of Time because it seems slightly faster than walking. In any case, not being able to pick up speed sometimes makes timing jumps a little hard when you can't get the momentum. But oftentimes the distances are never too great that you need to build up a ton of speed anyway. Maybe I'm just rushing things. I definitely noticed I was missing my jumps more often during the Foxington stages. But again, those are challenge stages, so that's probably on me. Overall, the game is fun for all ages, and is a pretty solid platformer. There were only a few times when I felt frustrated due to the gameplay, and most of those were in the post-game challenge stages. The game leaves itself open to a sequel, and I honestly hope that we get one. New Super Lucky's Tale is an enjoyable experience, and I would love to play more. It's a fairly short game with 5 main worlds and a bonus world after the credits, but it's still a fun experience. With that being said, I give New Super Lucky's Tale 4.5 Book of Ages pages out of 5. I hope you enjoyed this month's review. As always, thank you for watching.